Talking Dallas Mountaineers football, Rich Mannello with us. Coach, a great season. You win a district championship. Nothing's easy. You earn everything. Those kids earned everything they got. Yeah. And now you head into the state playoffs. So talk about the grind and what the journey's been like.
Yeah, I mean, you know what it's like. It's every week, but, and every day you turn around, it's Wednesday, it seems like, it goes that fast. But, there's no shortcuts through it. We've been talking about the same thing every Sunday, every Monday, and these kids have bought into this. They're a resilient bunch. The junior and senior class has really come together. We've mentioned that before, that's a rarity. These high school programs are really run by seniors. And every once in a while you get lightning in a bottle where two classes mold together, and they needed each other. They fed off of each other, which has worked well, and pushed to the limit here Friday, and the resiliency proved itself out. In that last penalty, it's 3rd and 16, and you get a penalty and make it 3rd and 1 on our side of the field. I mean, they stayed calm and they just played football and they finished off the game. So that one's gone. It was a great night for the community. It was really neat to see everybody on the field afterwards, and for what these kids went through, and they had all those bomb threats and other threats after that. We said teenagers, none of our kids deserve that, any of our students in the community, and so it was a nice way to bring everybody together. Now we're on to the next step.
That next step is now an unknown, a team that, okay, I have no idea who this team is. You're going to watch them on film, which you've already done. You get some information about them, but, who knows what's going to happen at the next step. But a home game in the state playoffs, that's something that hasn't happened. They kind of usually go to a neutral site or whatever is going on. That's got to be a great feeling to know, hey, we're getting a little home cooking here on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we kept that information back from the kids until after the district game, and told them that while we were still out in the field, and you could see them. And it's exciting. And, high school kids that are practicing football on Thanksgiving morning aren't too many of those in the United States. So I said, you're in rare air, but the other part I reminded them about now, as we are today, this is it, Friday. This group, as it's put together, will never be back out on that stadium again. And I think that's starting to hit them. I said, embrace the moment. Enjoy every day. We got to get our work in and go. And you got a heck of a football team coming up here. And, everybody else that we play and see all the time in the district, you know more about them than you need to know. And so this is a group that, we don't have any history with. So, you got to be careful. You got to go by what the computer tells you, by what you see on film, and you can't be chasing ghosts. You got to keep the kids. You can very easily get out of your lane at this point, and you got to stay in there. There's a reason why we're in week 14. It's what's been done consistently the whole year up to date.
Your formula has worked. You try to keep as many of these coaches together as you can over the years. You try to keep the program going. So let's talk a little bit about, you reflecting back. It's not time for that yet, but you will. But talk about, how these guys buy in the offseason, and how they grind on Sundays, and how they do the job day in and day out to put yourself in this position.
We're very fortunate. In the offseason, there's 5 coaches here every day. I mean, that's a rarity, I think. And they're just all bought in. And, I learned quickly here after going from a full-time college staff that you got to think outside of the box in high school, and we've got to find a way to look, get guys to learn along the way, whether it starts in the minis and migrates to the junior high, and little by little they learn how we do things, and we start to incorporate them. It's got to be the right guys, got to be the right mix. I've always been a fan of a smaller staff over bigger. And but the guys that we have are they're dialed in. Everybody gets their work done. Got a lot of techie guys, because I still work off of a yellow pad. And, all the huddle and the technology and all that. They're great, but they're bought in. And, this doesn't happen without this staff. I mean, they're a special group. And they're dialed into these kids, and it's a tremendous community. We're in a one high school town. I recruited my whole life, all over the place on the Eastern Coast. And now I could recruit about 900 yards, and all the buildings below, and plus the high school, and so it's a nice fit.
You have some guys that kind of could be a Swiss Army knife on this team, and you had talked to me about this years ago. Listen, we got to we got to coach these kids to multiple positions, whether it's over. We'll talk a little bit more about the defensive side, but you throw in a Zach Pacheski or a Jeski, a Lewis, guys that could be a fullback, could be a tailback. The last couple of years, you kind of had some of those. You could get a guy, you're riding a guy, 2,000-yard guy gets hurt. Now all of a sudden, what are you going to do? So you have guys in positions that can make plays.
Yeah, and we learned that early on that you have to. They're playing both ways. Now we get into last week's outfit, a lot of one-way guys there, and we're going to see that moving forward, and that's the goal, and we're getting closer there, but you still have to cross-train them. So this was the first time we had 8 guys in the offensive line that we felt we can win with. There's more depth there, there's 4 deep, but there's 8 guys that on Friday night you can roll out there and roll in and not give up a drive. Well, some of those guys were fullbacks, but they're 1,000-pound weightlifters, right? So now we say, all right, let's cross-train them and get them up here. And if we're not in the I formation, you're going to be standing next to me. I love you and all, but you should be out there on the field. And they bought into that. We had guys senior year that were fullbacks that are now guards, and guys that are in between. We've got a guy that plays tight end, wing, and he played guard and tackle in the last month. And we've got another guy that's rolled last night between guard and wing and fullback. And so you could talk about that. It's painful to do, but that's that year-round commitment, and having the kids all the time. They're playing their other sports, but when we've got them, they're learning in the off season what these other positions are. And then defensively, the structure we went to really, it plays into true cross-training. Those 2 outside linebackers, same guy. The 2 safeties, same guy. It is interchangeable what they're doing. The down guys that are up front, you can move them across any place. And so that all of that is worked together. But it's a commitment by everybody, and it's everybody being unselfish.
Is there an unsung group of guys on this team? Is it that offensive line, defensive line? Are there guys in this team that maybe aren't getting enough credit, but you say, hey, listen, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be where we're at?
I'm a line guy forever, right? But I always default to those kids. And it's a great group right now. Those 4 of them up front that never played under the lights in the offensive line, but they were strong. It wasn't them. The work was there. This group, it's the skill kids. And they're usually guys that do get all the credit, but you won't hear that from them. It's the same thing that happens once in a while. They don't care who gets the ball. They want the ball. Every great competitor does. But they know when they don't get it that there's a reason, and it's all part of what we're doing. And again, as long as we win. But early on, look what Pacheski did in week 2 up at Crestwood. He touched the ball 3 times in a row in 3 successive offensive plays, and it was 3 touchdowns. They carried all those guys, all those skill guys, and you couldn't just lock in on one. You had to pick which one. And so that, I think this group, the skill group, really took over and really controlled the football program.
You're still having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think in ways, you still watch you do things at the end of games or, in the weight room or at practice, and you're still trying to learn about coaching, even though, hey, you're at a good part of your career.
Yeah.
Talk about just being able, as you said, you had that college run. That was different.
Yeah.
Now this is a high school run, and you have fun with your staff, you have fun with your kids, but boy, they know it's business time when you get down to it.
Yeah, there's a nice mix here. They know when we walk through those doors, it's work time. And, the part that I enjoy the most is what you enjoyed as a player, just being around the kids, and the locker room and the camaraderie. And I'll be honest with you, I love the off season to watch kids develop. And I'm starting to see it now. Last night's lift, that next layer of young ones coming up, you see that they bought in, hey, this could be us next. And it gets contagious, and now I'm seeing, the intensity in the weight room, and that's part, which is neat. But if you stop learning in football every day, you got to get out. And I got a staff that challenges me constantly, and in a good way. And we work at it all year long, all off season. You come here on the weekend, we're in there grinding it out, and we're having sometimes some unpleasant conversations on the grease board. But that's how you get better. You got to challenge each other. And the neat thing is that in high school, because our kids are playing both ways, the core group of our staff has to schematically really understand all three phases, because you don't have time in between series to talk to these kids like you do in college. You got 2 minutes at halftime, and we better walk in there knowing what we're doing, because they're expecting answers. Football kids are great, but the bottom line is, can you help them get better? And they know the guys that can help them get better. And that's a yes or no proposition. There's no middle there. And so all of that works. But you always have fun. You might say I'm in the fourth quarter of this thing, but I don't know if I've ever had more fun. I can't wait to get in here every day, and the kids make it that way. Because I'm telling you, people say you can't flick a switch in football. They walk out of those 2 doors, they flip a switch, and they go to work. And when people come and watch us practice, they shake their head a lot of times because they can't believe how hard these kids go, and they enjoy it. We don't have to say much, but it's part of that culture, and it's built in that room back there. I'm convinced. And until this is all done for me and I'm done coaching, nobody's ever gonna. That's one thing I'm not gonna ever change my mind on. You win in the weight room. You win with power and strength and speed. I don't care what level you're at. The schematic thing, it is what it is. You got to be able to power clean.
All right, let's leave on that note. I remember hearing that for years. Rich Mannello, glad you're having a great time. Great Thanksgiving meal coming up for this weekend. Dallas football at home. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.